Japan's post-war economic miracle came with unexpected consequences. During the 1960s, Japan's industrial workforce expanded at record speed, creating what became known as the economic animal generation. These workers regularly pulled all-night shifts, many keeping futons in office closets to sleep between marathon work sessions. The term salaryman emerged to describe white-collar employees who devoted their lives entirely to their companies. This extreme work ethic transformed Japan into the world's second-largest economy by 1968. This rapid economic ascent came at a steep cultural cost. Like a double-edged sword, companies demanded unwavering loyalty, offering lifetime employment in exchange for total commitment. Workdays often stretched past midnight, leaving little room for personal lives. Marriage and child-rearing became secondary priorities, with men relying on wives to manage homes and raise children. While this arrangement aligned with traditional gender roles, it planted the seeds for future demographic challenges. By the 1990s, the economic bubble burst and cultural attitudes shifted. Younger generations, disillusioned by their parents' grueling work lives and strained marriages, began rejecting these norms. Sociologists coined the term herbivore men to describe males who avoided romantic relationships and corporate servitude. Between 1985 and 2015, the percentage of unmarried Japanese men aged 30 to 34 tripled from 14% to 47%. Women, too, postponed or abandoned marriage, prioritizing personal fulfillment and financial independence. The demographic consequences of these shifts are stark. Japan's fertility rate plummeted to 1.3 children per woman, far below the 2.1 needed for population replacement. Nearly 30% of Japanese citizens are over 65, with the median age now 48.6 years. Government projections show the population shrinking from 126 million today to 97 million by 2050. Bustling factories have given way to ghostly neighborhoods, with over 8 million homes standing vacant nationwide. In some rural areas, like Nagoro, scarecrows outnumber living residents. Desperate measures highlight the scale of the crisis. The town of Ama offers couples $15,000 per child, with additional payments for subsequent births. Yet even substantial incentives fail to reverse the trend. In 2022, Japan recorded fewer than 800,000 births against 1.4 million deaths. Basic societal functions now reflect these shifts. Major diaper manufacturers have shifted production to adult incontinence products, while hundreds of schools close annually due to a lack of students. Labor shortages are so severe that some companies actively recruit elderly employees, with 13% of firms having no mandatory retirement age. The roots of this crisis lie in Japan's post-war economic strategy. Lifetime employment practices and grueling work hours made balancing career and family nearly impossible. Restrictive housing policies kept urban apartments small and expensive, discouraging family formation. Meanwhile, outdated gender norms left working mothers without adequate support. Today, closed maternity wards and shuttered pediatric clinics stand as stark reminders of these choices. What began as an economic miracle has spiraled into a self-inflicted population crisis, showing how short-term prosperity can lead to long-term existential threats. Service industries are already buckling under labor shortages. Convenience stores rely on self-checkout systems as franchise owners struggle to find staff. Rural hospitals lack obstetricians, forcing pregnant women to travel hours for care. The construction industry, despite offering wages 40% above the national average, faces severe worker shortages, jeopardizing infrastructure maintenance. Even Tokyo's iconic taxi fleets now include drivers in their 80s. Economic ripple effects compound the problem. Pension systems designed for continuous population growth now support 2 workers per retiree, a ratio projected to drop to 1.3 by 2050. Government debt exceeds 260% of GDP, with borrowing propping up social programs. Younger generations inherit this burden while grappling with their own demographic challenges. Many companies still resist workplace reforms, clinging to unpaid overtime and after-hours socializing that discourage parenting. Cultural resistance to immigration worsens the labor crisis. Foreign workers make up just 2% of Japan's workforce despite relaxed visa rules. Language barriers and social isolation hinder integration, while many jobs exclude non-Japanese applicants. Industries like agriculture and nursing rely heavily on foreign trainees, yet visa programs discourage long-term stays. Without significant immigration reform, Japan's population decline seems locked in, a stark reminder of how delayed consequences can reshape a nation. South Korea's education arms race leaves no room for families. South Korea faces a demographic crisis fueled by an education system that leaves little room for family life. The country spends nearly 8% of GDP on private education, the highest rate among developed nations. Most families invest heavily in after-school academies called hagwons, where children receive intensive test preparation. An average middle school student attends 3 different hagwons daily after regular school hours, often studying until midnight. While this system produces exceptional academic results, South Korean students consistently rank near the top in global math and science assessments. It places immense pressure on both parents and children. The education arms race begins early. Parents often enroll children in English immersion programs as young as age 3. By elementary school, students memorize dozens of vocabulary words daily and tackle advanced math concepts far beyond their grade level. High schoolers, juggling school, hagwon classes, and self-study average just 5 hours of sleep per night. The relentless focus on university entrance exams drives 93% of high school graduates to pursue higher education, but leaves little time for social or emotional development. One high school student described a routine. I wake up at 6 a.m., go to school, then hagwon until 11 p.m., and study until 2 a.m. I don't remember the last time I had dinner with my family. This system also imposes crushing financial burdens. The average family spends $1,500 monthly on private education, consuming nearly 20% of household income. Many parents take second jobs or even private education loans to cover these costs. The cycle is self-perpetuating. Parents invest heavily in education, hoping their children will secure high-paying jobs. But those same jobs later demand such long hours that employees struggle to raise families of their own. Housing costs exacerbate the problem. A typical apartment in Seoul costs 18.5 times the median annual income, making it one of the most unaffordable housing markets worldwide. Many young couples delay marriage because they cannot afford homes, with the average first-time homebuyer now aged 43. Over 65% of South Koreans in their 20s live with their parents due to housing costs. Even married couples often live apart. Fathers work in cities, while mothers raise children in cheaper suburban areas, a phenomenon known as juryoji families. Gender inequality further discourages family formation. Women earn just 61% of what men make and face strong cultural expectations to quit their jobs after childbirth. Working mothers report spending 3 times longer on household chores than their husbands. Nearly 40% of female university graduates remain unmarried, with many rejecting what they call marriage imperialism. Some women have embraced the free movement, refusing dating, marriage, and childbearing entirely to avoid career penalties. The demographic consequences are stark. South Korea's fertility rate dropped to 0.78 children per woman in 2022, the lowest ever recorded worldwide. Population projections show the country shrinking from 51 million today to just 27 million by 2070 if current trends persist. Already, more than 3,000 schools have closed since 2000 due to declining enrollment. In rural areas like Yeongju County, every elementary school is projected to shut down within 5 years unless trends reverse. Government efforts to boost birth rates have seen limited success. Since 2006, over $200 billion has been spent on incentives like tax breaks, housing subsidies, and direct payments. The latest program offers $10,000 per newborn, plus monthly payments until the child turns 7. Yet birth rates continue to fall. 2023 saw another 8% decline compared to 2022. Critics argue these policies fail to address root causes like education costs and workplace discrimination. Corporate culture compounds parenting challenges. Despite a 2018 law capping workweeks at 52 hours, week enforcement means many employees still work late to demonstrate loyalty. Schools often schedule mandatory weekend activities, and nearly 70% of working mothers report pressure to resign after pregnancy announcements. Even progressive companies struggle. One major tech firm's on-site childcare center remains empty because employees fear career penalties for using it. The education system resists reform. Private hagwons generate $24 billion annually, creating powerful opposition to regulation. Attempts to enforce 10 p.m. curfews for academies led some to move classes online. Universities maintain strict entrance quotas, fueling competition, while corporations prioritize elite school graduates in hiring. These structural barriers keep education costs rising despite falling student populations. Cultural shifts suggest deeper transformations. A 2023 survey found 45% of young South Koreans view marriage as obsolete, while 38% see no need for children. Pet ownership has surged 40% over the past decade, with urban spending on pets now exceeding spending on children. Whether these trends reflect modernization or crisis, South Korea's experience shows how systems designed for economic success can lead to demographic collapse when pushed to extremes. Italy's regional divide, empty villages, crowded cities. Italy's demographic crisis reveals a nation split into two different worlds. The industrial north maintains moderate population levels, while southern villages empty completely. Since 2014, southern Italy has lost 1.2 million residents, even as the national population declined by just 400,000. Young adults leave rural areas for northern cities or foreign job markets, creating ghost towns where only the elderly remain. In Molise, one of Italy's smallest regions, nearly 40% of villages have lost over half their population since 2000. Schools and hospitals close as tax bases vanish, leaving these areas even less viable for new residents. The national fertility rate sits at 1.24 children per woman, far below replacement level. Italy has recorded more deaths than births every year since 2015, with 2022 seeing a record gap of 331,000. Northern cities like Milan and Bologna maintain slightly higher fertility rates, around 1.4, supported by internal migration and international arrivals. Meanwhile, southern regions like Sardinia and Basilicata post rates below 1.0, creating demographic freefall zones where recovery becomes nearly impossible. Economic instability directly suppresses births. Despite strong Catholic cultural influences, marriage and birth rates have plummeted. The average Italian woman now has her first child at 32, among Europe's highest ages. Nearly 70% of Italians aged 18 to 34 still live with their parents due to financial constraints, delaying family formation indefinitely. Youth unemployment exceeds 25% nationwide, reaching 50% in some southern areas. Temporary contracts dominate the job market, with only 32% of workers under 35 holding permanent positions. Regions with higher youth employment show slightly better fertility rates, but the overall trend remains bleak. Some dying towns attempt radical solutions. Over 100 municipalities now sell abandoned homes for €1, hoping to attract new residents. The Sicilian town of Sambuca drew global attention for this scheme, selling 16 properties in 2019. However, most buyers are foreign retirees or vacation home investors rather than young families. Without local jobs, even free housing fails to reverse declines. In Molise, villages like Civita di Bagnarijo, accessible only by footbridge, have just a handful of full-time residents despite similar programs. These efforts underscore a harsh reality. Without economic foundations, demographic recovery remains out of reach. Immigration compounds Italy's challenges. Germany hosts over 650,000 Italian-born workers, mostly young professionals. The UK, Switzerland, and France each attract over 200,000 more. This brain drain disproportionately affects southern Italy, where 40% of university graduates leave within 5 years of completing their degrees. Puglia alone loses an estimated €1 billion annually in educated labor value as doctors, engineers, and researchers seek opportunities abroad. Return rates are minimal. Only 8% of Italian immigrants come back after 5 years away. Unlike internal migration, this permanent loss deprives Italy of potential parents and taxpayers. The pension system strains under demographic pressures. Italy spends 16% of GDP on retirement benefits, Europe's highest proportion. The system relies on constant new contributors, but now has just 1.7 workers per pensioner. Southern regions face particular crises. Calabria, for instance, has more pensioners than active workers. Successive governments have raised retirement ages, but avoided deeper reforms for fear of voter backlash. By 2040, analysts project pensions could consume 22% of GDP unless drastic changes occur. Without interventions, Italy's regional divides will deepen. ISTA projections show northern cities stabilizing around 2035 due to internal migration, while southern regions may lose 50% of their remaining population by 2050. Already, 15% of southern municipalities risk complete depopulation within 20 years. As younger generations concentrate in prosperous northern pockets, Italy increasingly resembles two distinct demographic nations sharing one fragile state.